The Land Conservation Council final recommendations for the Victorian Mallee were endorsed by State Parliament in May 1990. As a result, a major new national park encompassing 633,000 hectares of the Sunset Country, including some Murray River frontage, has been created. It is proposed that this new park be called Yanganyawi, a local Aboriginal word meaning sunset. The existing Wyperfield National Park has been expanded from 96,000 hectares to 324,000 hectares as a consequence of the Land Conservation Council recommendations, and now includes much of the eastern Big Desert. There is now good representation in the Victorian park system of native plant and animal communities of the semi-arid environment. The significance of the new Mallee parks is that about 3/4 of Australia's mallee vegetation has already been cleared for agriculture. Much of that which remains is subject to grazing by stock and has been considerably modified. This includes semi-arid woodlands, such as those dominated by casuarina species and native cypress pine. The Mallee Flora and Fauna Reserve provides an example of an almost pristine Bilar woodland. The reserve is in stark contrast to a similar vegetation type in the western Sunset, which has been subjected to heavy grazing pressure over many years. Regeneration is virtually absent, and there is a lack of understory species. The new Mallee parks contain extensive areas that have been disturbed by past land management practices, such as timber harvesting, and by the grazing of domestic stock, rabbits and native fauna. The more palatable species exhibit a distinct browse line. Stock grazing within the parks has been progressively phased out and will cease altogether after 1996. Rabbit numbers were particularly high in this area of the Sunset in late 1989. Once the grasses, herbs and seedlings have disappeared, the rabbits will strip the bark from woody plants. This damage is by no means typical of the management of grazed areas of Mallee public land. In most areas, the grazing licensees have practiced good rabbit control. Considerable management resources were committed by the government in 1990-91 to the reduction of rabbit populations to an acceptable level within sections of the parks. This particularly applied to those areas which adjoin agricultural land. It is estimated that intensive rabbit control will eventually be required over some 250,000 hectares. The dense mallee vegetation, which is dominant in most of the park area, does not generally support significant rabbit populations. The initial knockdown phase of rabbit control involves the ripping of warrens with tractors by both the Department of Conservation and Environment and by private contractors. This phase has been highly successful in the northwestern Sunset, with approximately 50,000 hectares having been ripped in the first year. The Cat Challenger is a 270 horsepower tractor capable of ripping up to 40 warrens per hour. Although ripping causes soil disturbance, it is the key to ensuring that rabbit numbers do not rapidly increase once seasonal conditions become favourable. Any warrens that are reopened are subsequently fumigated. The level of warren reopenings has generally been low. Another major management activity in the new parks has been vegetation protection and enhancement. Several important plant communities are now at risk because prolonged grazing pressure has not allowed regeneration and the mature seed trees are in decline. The reduction of total grazing pressure through rabbit and kangaroo control is a key strategy in the encouragement of regeneration. However, There also needs to be adequate rainfall and a reduction in weed competition before widespread regeneration can occur. The department is taking active steps to enhance regeneration through direct seeding of key species. This practice has been successfully applied in low rainfall areas of South Australia. A series of 10 exclusion plots has been constructed in order to monitor the vegetation changes that occur post-grazing, and also to study the influence of rabbits and kangaroos upon the regeneration of perennial species. Grazing management has changed the suitability of the environment for a range of native species. Some herbivores, such as western grey kangaroos, have been favoured by these changes. There is a danger that in the post-grazing period, kangaroo numbers will increase and maintain the total grazing pressure upon vegetation. The availability of artificial waters in catchment dams is thought to be a factor in maintaining kangaroo numbers over dry periods. These waters may also allow the kangaroos to broaden their diet to include woody perennial plants which might otherwise have been unsuitable. Kangaroo populations will therefore need to be closely monitored and control measures possibly instituted. A wide range of issues will be reviewed in the development of detailed management plans for the new parks over the next 2 years. These include fire management and the control of pest animals. The habitat requirements of threatened species such as the Mallee fowl and the black-eared myna will be considered. The public will have the opportunity to fully participate in the park planning process. Interim management arrangements for the parks are explained in a new brochure available from officers of the Department of Conservation and Environment. This brochure outlines the many opportunities that exist for public use and enjoyment of the new Mallee National Parks.